But I think what we're really passionate about is demonstrating and living and pursuing a life that is going after our dreams in a way that builds unity.
I feel like our vision has been formed out of adversity, out of pivoting, out of figuring it out.
I don't have to be good at what I'm doing. I just have to be obedient. Like, it's necessary to live building towards a dream or a vision for your life.
I like you.
I kind of like you, you know? Like,
You're nice.
Kind of all right. Welcome to the Art of Us podcast. We're your hosts. My name is Jamal.
My name is Beth.
And together we are...
Beth and Jamal. Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's like those people that go on X Factor and they're like part of a duo or something.
And they have
My
to
name's
declare.
Tom. My name's Sam.
And together we're
Tom and Sam.
So welcome. This is episode 4 of the Art of Us podcast. And today's topic is called Dissecting Utopia. Essentially, we're going to be talking about how to build your dream life, how to build your utopia, and what that even means. Like, what is that? What does that mean to us? What does that look like?
And we're definitely still figuring that out.
Yeah,
FYI. We
100%.
haven't built it currently.
So we're going to be...
We're in the process of.
Exactly, and that's exactly what the podcast is about. So I wrote this nice little tagline for the podcast, which I'm going to read out because...
Okay. Lay it on me.
Only because I wrote it, and it would be a waste not to read it.
Lay it on me thick, boy.
You ready? Every culture throughout history has had a vision for a utopian society.
Dun, dun, dun!
A way of living in the complete peace and harmony. Whether that be through religion, human innovation, politics, or even war.
Dang, son.
World domination or one world orders, human history has been marked by a severe longing for wholeness and community.
I mean, that's true.
Today, we still find ourselves with the same longings, faced with the same hurdles and circumstances, albeit with a new iteration of people and power dynamics.
Don't you know it?
So in this podcast, we're dissecting our idea of utopia and share our vision for living, our dreams, our goals for ourselves, for the people that we love, and essentially all of society. So this is going to be a very visionary podcast.
It's a very big topic, not
talking
going to
about
lie.
dreams and how we want to live our lives.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Well,
Jamal Billy,
I don't
where
know.
do we start?
I don't know where to start. Let's refer to the...
Where do we start?
Oh, this is a thing. Oh, right. Okay. I see what you're trying to do. At the start? Is that the thing we do? I can't remember what you're trying to establish here.
What have I sung at like nearly every start of every podcast episode? Because you're like, where do we start?
Where do we start, Beth?
Where do we start, Jamal?
You do it.
You do it.
I don't know what you're trying to talk about.
You do, the song.
At the beginning? Let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah!
This is not going to be a thing for our podcast.
I mean, we're
refuse.
4 episodes in and
I refuse.
it's been consistent.
I refuse. Well, Bethany Billy, let's start at the start. What does your dream life look like?
I'm going to throw that one back to you, Jamal Billy, because you chose this topic. What does your dream life look like?
Well, I think
Jamal Billy, tell
in
me.
general, we should all be willing to dream. I think that is the first area, is
Amen.
to be like, why is dreaming difficult for us? Why is visioning and being visionary about our lives and being optimistic about the things we want to do in our lives? Why is that difficult, or at least frowned upon? I feel like being pessimistic and realistic is so much more...
realistic.
Yeah, it's so much more like normal. But actually having like an idea about the utopian life you want to live and pursue that wholeheartedly is definitely, I guess, taboo. It feels like it's taboo even to say and talk about, which is why I want to talk about it, because I think for me and for us, we've spent such a long time talking about vision and as a marriage, as a couple, and the way we want to take our family, our legacy, like things like that. And yeah, I think it's been important for us. And for me, it's like my dream is to be free, to be fully free. And I feel like that's emotionally, spiritually, and practically. But from a practical sense of view, I'd love to be able to just roam, just like go wherever we want to go, do whatever we want to do. in terms of like travel. I think travel is a really important aspect of my dream life. You look like you're about to sneeze. Don't sneeze into the mic.
Woo!
So yeah, there's so many aspects which we'll get into later on in the podcast. But overall, my dream life looks like traveling a lot with you, whether it's like exploring and adventuring, because I think seeing the world is such an important aspect of feeling like you're part of the world and feeling like you're part of community and society.
And also you just learn so much when you're traveling. Looking at the ways that other people in the world live, I think we can get so in our own bubbles when we only have like a very closed community, or we're only seeing the same types of people, doing the same types of things, like living in the same culture, and everyone thinks a very similar way. When you travel, your mind is expanded in the ways that we can live and the things that we can do, and things that seem normal to us here in Britain. People in another country may be like, why the heck are you doing that? Like, why do you feel like you have to do that? Things can be so much more different, and priorities can be way different to what they are right now.
And it's like we have to give ourselves permission to establish and create the culture that we want for ourselves and our family. And I think, yeah, especially as a couple, it's like we get to draw on so many different aspects of British culture, but also then traveling, experiencing other cultures, and the intersection of like faith as well, and our relationship with God. And all of those experiences can culminate into the vision and dream that we want to have for our lives. And I think all of those things are so important. And so travel for me is like, yeah, really vital to be able to see the world and explore and have my eyes opened to different things. But then there's also like the dichotomy of like, I really want to travel, but I also really want to be stable. And I really want to have consistency in community with people. And so like living in community and having kind of a communal aspect of our life as well is so important for me. Like I'm drawn to the idea of nomadic living, but I'm also drawn really heavily to the idea of like being able to raise family in a consistent environment with consistent people in their lives. And so I dream of like, and again, it's so optimistic and it's almost like it is utopian. I have no idea how that is going to happen practically, but I do dream of like having both.
Yeah, well, it's like you can have a base, can't you, where you come back to, and that is like the consistency within your like living life within your day-to-day life, living life,
as opposed to
to when you're dead,
to the dying life, or the sleeping life, maybe.
Having that freedom to be able to like go for a few months if you want to go for a few months. And yeah, so I think our dreams are very similar in that respect. Like everything that you've listed, I also want for us as well, which is very handy, like having a joint vision. Like I definitely am more nomadic than you are, but I think that's probably because of just the way that I was raised. So I feel like I could probably be off traveling for months on end and not really like have a problem with it. But like that's the good thing about what you bring into our marriage, is that you ground me and help me to see the benefits of like having the stability of like one place. Especially I think that will come more into play once we do have kids, because that is important for children to not only have the option of like seeing the world and traveling and experiencing cultures, but also having a safe grounding space for them where they have their friends and other like consistent older people in their lives to kind of help guide them.
Yeah, I think that in the same way you probably pull me out of my more stable, safe, practical mentalities. I think that's a beautiful balance in marriage, although it has been definitely difficult for us to navigate each other's, like, I guess, each other's preconceived ideas about what we want to do. But I think on the whole, it's like, it's been a good balance. And I think that's the thing, like when you want to dream and you have this idea of dream life, it can also feel quite isolating because you feel such a pull to this way of living. And it's almost like you feel like you have to let go of absolutely everyone and everything in your life that is holding you to a former iteration of yourself. And that can be very, very isolating. It can feel like you're very alone. But I think what we're really passionate about is demonstrating and living and pursuing a life that is going after our dreams in a way that builds unity both with us and a community of collective people who are also after the same things.
Yeah.
And it's about finding those people all around the world, bringing them into the beauty of the internet, the beauty of social media, that we get to do that, but bringing them into the same place, same vicinity, either online or in person, and being able to share the beauty of that vision with each other.
Yeah.
And then do that generation after generation after generation. So raise children who are also about that kind of that freedom, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. If you have like a certain vision that you're really passionate about, but there's no one around you that kind of shares that vision, it can feel quite isolating. Feel like you're the only person that has this vision or like wants to live this way, and like, am I crazy? I just want to say, no, you're not. There are like definitely people all around the world that like have a very similar vision to you. It's just about getting in those spaces and seeking those people out. Because for years we felt like really isolated in the way that we like wanted to live our lives. Like probably in the last like 4 years, we've been really intentional about seeking those people out. And now we have a really like big community all over the world of people that are just like so on a wavelength, and it's like so much fun, and you get to really experience the like a glimpse of the type of community that we want to live. It's been like super exciting, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you put your true authenticity out into the world, you then begin to magnetize so many opportunities.
I feel like you've just summarized everything I said in like a really beautiful sentence. This is like the story of my life.
Not at all. I think what you said was great.
I was like the most eloquent person on the face of the earth.
Not at all. I'm just adding to what you've said.
I love it.
Because what you said was so good. And yeah, and it's also like, we 100% believe that this is the vision God has for our lives as well. And I think when you have that conviction right to the deepest core of yourself, that there is a certain vision and dream you have for the way you want to live and the way you want to live with the people around you, that level of conviction, it hits so hard that it almost makes you physically sick if you're not going after it in some way, shape or form. And I think like if that's you and you feel like you have a dream life or a style of living or a way you want to live or sustain what you're doing, and you're not going after it and you're feeling stressed and physically sick, it may simply be because you're just not aligned with your calling. You're not aligned with your purpose. And for me, I've definitely experienced that, where I have literally experienced burnout, physical sickness, because I've been in, and I think I would say I'm still in a situation where I'm right at the start of solidifying this dream, and we're solidifying this dream in our hearts. And I've been in situations where I've been pursuing other things just because I feel like I need to pay the bills or to do this or to do that or to fulfill other people's visions. And yeah, it's not good. So it's like for the first step, like I said about 10 minutes ago after we just waffled, but the first step is like, give yourself permission to dream, give yourself permission to actually say, yes, this is the way I want to live. And that's okay. Not only is okay, it's necessary. Like it's necessary to live building towards a dream or a vision for your life.
And also believe that it can happen. We were talking about something the other day, and then this kind of thought came to my mind because I've been really struggling with kind of criticism in my life, the way that I so strongly like responded to just like a lot of criticism, and how that like really knocked my confidence. I just had this kind of revelation from God that I don't have to think that I'm good at something. I just have to be obedient to the call on my life. And I think that's the same with things like your vision for what you want to do with your life. Initially, you may not feel 100% confident that you can make it happen, but it's the obedience to the call in your life that is like the first step. Once you take that first step of obedience, and the more steps that you take in that direction, then the confidence will kind of come as a byproduct in like what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we had this conversation, and you said, I don't have to be good at what I'm doing, I just have to be obedient.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not always necessarily about having all your ducks in a row before you take the step. It's about being obedient to the calling and obedient to the what is being placed upon your heart,
yeah,
and following that call no matter what. and listening to the voice of God, listening to your intuition, listening to yourself, and trusting yourself, trusting God, and just stepping out.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I'm always speaking to myself here because I really need to hear this and live this in my life. But there's so many hurdles that can go after that, because when we're talking about utopia, we're talking about society, we're talking about if every single person followed the vision of their lives, the deep vision of their lives. So this is based on the belief that every single person, every single human being is born inherently good, and that the deepest design of us and the deepest calling within us from God, that God planted in there when he created us, is good. And following that could only lead to us doing good. Obviously, people can choose evil, can choose bad things, and can choose to dream up a life that exploits people and things like that. But my belief is that every single person is at least inherently born good and born with a plan and a purpose for good in their lives.
Yeah.
And so following that inherent call, imagine if even just a small group of people did that. Imagine what society would look like on a global scale, or even as on a local scale, if we all disengaged from the norm of going to work, feeling miserable, talking about the weather, saying hi to another colleague at work and doing that like false smile where you're just kind of asking people how they are, but you're not really asking people how they are. Imagine if we let all that go and we actually kind of unplugged and spent, I don't know, one day a week more than we do at the moment, saying, okay, what is the vision for my life? What do I actually want to do with my life? What is my purpose? And what are the steps I'm going to need to go after that? Imagine what life would look like.
I mean, everyone would be a lot more happy for sure. It would be kind of chaos, but like in a good way. There wouldn't be any sort of societal structure or whatever, but like everyone would just be figuring it out. It wouldn't be just like a given what you're going to be doing. I think would actually bring more of a community aspect. If everyone is figuring it out, everyone is going to be empathizing with each other and hopefully rooting for each other and helping each other, and just seeing how you can aid another person in their kind of dreams and stuff.
It's about giving as well, isn't it? And I think sometimes when we're talking about like dreams and stuff, it can be interpreted as really narcissistic and really selfish. But when I think the height of our sense of fulfillment is in what we contribute to the world. But I think we can only contribute out of the overflow of our most authentic selves. And so I think a lot of us are, I know I am, but a lot of us in society, I feel like, are operating at a deficit of who they truly are. Like we get to the end of the day or the end of the week and we feel drained.
Yeah.
Like we feel completely, most of us at least, feel wiped out and feel exhausted, and we're weakened at the weekend. We're not strengthened. But I think, there is something deeply fulfilling about being able to give and being able to give back and being able to serve. And I think we can only really serve out of the overflow. And so if the first focus is on ourselves in terms of our own health, fulfillment in life, pursuing the things we feel like we're called to pursue, and then from that place, it's so much more, we've got so much more energy because we feel fulfilled in our lives to give out of the overflow of that and serve other people. Yeah. And I think in my dream life, service and giving is like at the heart of it, because my vision is that we all have beautiful, beautiful offerings that we can bring to the world, whether it's artistic giftings, whether it's logistics or logical kind of thinking or planning, whether it's, leadership or government or whatever it is. We all have these inherent giftings. And what we should be able to do in an ideal society or ideal world is present those giftings and offerings to the world in some way, shape or form, and be rewarded with whatever currency is necessary for us to live, to continue to give and and live the life we want to give. And I think in my eyes, like, to be able to give back, use my talents to give back to the world is probably the most deepest sense of fulfillment in my dream, in the way I want to live my life. What do you think? Do you think giving is part of that for you as well?
Definitely. Giving out is so important. We just don't understand how much we have to give. Like, even if we don't have anything financial, we have a wealth of experience, of love, of care, of like cooking for someone, of time that people need. And we need connection and we need love. Everyone does. Giving is a central pillar, really.
No, I agree, 100%. And so if you could kind of outline like your life's work and thinking about giving, thinking about our dreams, thinking about the kind of life we want to live, but also like how we want to look back on our lives or how we want to be remembered when it comes to our dreams and stuff. Like what are the kind of key projects or key things, or even just, you know, what you want to be remembered by when it comes to like the way you've lived and the way that you've pursued what you feel God has called you to pursue?
Aye.
Boom, I just thought I'd drop that in there.
I feel like there's just like so many aspects to that. So like, I think if we start with a kind of core, like, and then work our way out, I want to be known as someone who was faithful to like her relationship with God and like what she truly believed, and like was unwavering in her belief, just completely filled to the brim with compassion and care for all living creatures. I also feel like my relationship with you is like so key, because we're one. And so if this relationship isn't working, if we're not happy, if we're not sort of, you know, strong in this relationship, then a part of me is not okay. And then how am I supposed to do anything useful in this world if, you know, if that's not working? Like the power of marriage and the power of a united couple in love is so underrated in this world. Yeah, just keeping our love and our marriage alive and well and thriving is like a key part of that.
I'm up for that. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, you're up for the ride?
Yeah, I think so. I think it sounds good.
We've spoken about creating retreat centres sort of all over the world for artists to come and to be loved, to be nurtured, to have like practical skills taught to them surrounding the art forms that they are going into, as well as just like heart work. So much of like creating powerful art comes from within. And so part of our life's work is creating those retreat centers, living in community, as well as having access to travel. Yeah, just creating powerful art in this world and leaving it better than we found it.
Wow, that sounds like a beautiful vision. I feel like this is just the start as well. I feel like
something new.
This could be the start of something new. Feels so right to be here with you. Anyways, no more High School Musical. Blast from the past. Yeah, my life's work. All of that. That is beautiful, and I think that's.
And living in communion with nature.
Yeah, nature is definitely part of it. And I just this vision of like creating space for artists to come and feel revived, revitalized, and be sent back out into the world with like a newfound vision and newfound excitement for what they do, as well as like a healed heart.
Yeah. Also,
is that a hand up?
There's a hand up.
For those listening, let's just put a hand up.
Also, we've spoken about like doing retreats with couples as well. So like kind of marriage retreats, like relationship retreats, and also like retreats for couples that are going through infertility, to find like community, like creating retreats for them to feel refreshed and loved, and that there's more to life than, you know, the depths of despair, of grief.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think all of that is so like, it's so at the forefront of our minds and hearts. And I think thinking about like how we got to this stage of vision, because I mean, my vision is very, very much the same to yours, which, you know, we've been together for about 13 years. Like we've got to the point where we've kind of coalesced a lot in our in our vision, our dreams.
We're the same person. We're not. We're really not.
And I think, I'd love to collaborate with artists all over the world and run retreats, like co-create retreats with other people who are also on this kind of wavelength all around the world. Imagine like hosting like a retreat in like, I don't know, like Ghana or something, a retreat in like Australia, a retreat in like Brazil, and then a retreat in like Spain, and having like couples from all over the world going through the same things, artists from all over the world, like co-creating and collaborating, and just traveling, running workshops, obviously creating music. And then like when your agent calls for an audition, you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna pop to LA for 6 weeks and just film this thing, and then I'm gonna come back and carry on like blessing other people with like workshops and stuff. Like that sounds like a dream.
Yeah, definitely. I've kind of wrestled with over the years is like, I feel so called to the film and television industry, and like the creatives in that field, but I have so much more to give than just in that space. And that is like why it's so exciting to me that we have like this other vision as well, to like create retreat centers and like make music and things like that, because it just feels like life is so full and so rich in that way.
Yeah, that's so true. That's a really good point, actually. I think like thinking about vision and dreams in the sense that in order to really go after it, some people think they have to let go of certain things, or you can only do or be one thing. I think that's another way this society kind of funnels us and boxes us into.
What's your niche?
Yeah, and even on social media, it's like you have to have a niche in order to grow, and like this kind of teaching around, fine tuning what your message is. And I think sometimes the actual art of fine-tuning what your message is your message.
Yeah.
Maybe your message is, I'm just figuring it out, and I have all these dreams and I'm not one thing. And this is me going after the things I love.
Being a multifaceted human being.
Multidimensional, multifaceted, multi-talented artist, creative, entrepreneur, like mother or father, lover of Jesus, whatever it looks like. And that's okay too. Like, I think for me, thinking about how we've got to this point, and it comes back right to the start of what we were saying at the podcast, is like...
Where does it come back to?
It comes back to the very beginning, whatever. Oh my gosh. It comes back to the start and saying like, you've got to give yourself permission to dream, but you've also got to give yourself permission to be more than just one thing. You are way more than just your 9-to-5 job, or way more than just your one talent, like being able to sing, or being able to play guitar, or being able to paint really well, or being able to speak really well, or you looking really beautiful according to like Western beauty standards or whatever. Like your aesthetic, your sound, your ability, like what you do and what you bring is secondary to who you are and who you're created to be.
Amen, boy, better preach.
And it's like give yourself permission to accept who you are, and your state of being is your number one most important thing. And then everything else is an overflow of that. And so you might be really good at guitar, and you might be playing, I don't know, you might be a touring musician or something. It doesn't mean that you don't have anything else to offer this world. It doesn't mean you don't have any other passions that you shouldn't pursue. And it also doesn't mean you have to monetize every passion that you have. But I think giving yourself permission to live a life that is deeply fulfilling means letting go of like the one thing that is bringing you the income, or bringing you the fulfillment, or bringing you your sense of identity, or your sense of acceptance from the world, and letting yourself be like inherently nomadic in who you are first and foremost, and then practically and emotionally nomadic, I guess.
Yeah, that was good. I don't have anything to add to that because that was perfection.
I guess giving ourselves permission to dream, giving ourselves permission to like, accept ourselves as deeper than just one thing.
Yeah.
But what else has been part of that process in getting to this stage where we've, spent the last, I guess, most of our marriage, I'd say, visioning out how we want to live. What did it take for us to do that? I'm trying to think about that.
I feel like I have something to say.
Go for it.
Sir,
I have something to say.
Please, can I speak? I think it took things not going the way we thought it was going to go.
Ooh.
That's what I think. Because I feel like our vision has been formed out of adversity, out of pivoting, out of, you know, just like figuring it out and having like times where we just had no idea what the heck was going on. And then, because I feel like those moments, you kind of get to know who you really are. Like your kind of true self comes out, and then you can look at your life and look at the way that it's like the way that you'd want it to go differently. And I think it also took us having a really healthy marriage, to be honest. Like prioritizing our marriage to be able to get to a point where, you know, we have such strong unified vision.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I feel like adversity definitely refined that. Even like little things, I think we can go probably do a whole load of other podcast episodes on these things. But even like health-wise, I think like the way that we've pursued health and wanting to go down the holistic route has been most probably a response to the health experiences that we've had.
Definitely.
Whereas I'm not sure if I would...
don't think we'd be nearly half as hippie as we are.
No.
If we did.
If we didn't...
I didn't,
I don't know. It could have
get
come
diagnosed
out.
with all these crappy things.
It may have come out in other ways, but
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
adversity is definitely brings out like the most authentic version of you.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I definitely would not have learned as much about herbalism and about like the women's menstrual cycle and about all of this stuff.
Okay, let me just speak 1 second. I feel like Jamal has this weird superpower. It's so weird, but it's amazing, and I actually really love it because I don't know half the time. He predicts to the day when my period is going to start. Like to the day. And also like around ovulation, like I think actually my ovulation switches every month, but on my app on my phone where I track my cycle and stuff, it has a little flower when I'm like supposedly supposed to ovulate. Jamal can predict when the day of the flower is, when the ovulation flower day is.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I felt a little twinge in my ovary. I don't know when I am in my cycle. I'm like, yeah, I think you're probably about 3 days off ovulation. And you check,
I'll check,
you check
and
your
it's
app.
literally 3 days.
And I've been like spot on, like literally last 3 times in a row.
I think it's more times than that. It's kind of...
Yeah, it's been like quite good. I feel
I'm
like
not convinced that you don't have my app on your phone.
But I only know because like I was so hyper aware of it, going through infertility for so long.
Yeah.
And also knowing how much like pain you've experienced with endometriosis and other things. I'm like hyper vigilant and hyper aware. It's almost like a trauma response.
Oh gosh, no.
I'm hyper vigilant about where you're at, and you know, and so that's also that. But that's an example of like,
that's extreme unified.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's vision, but I guess it's vision for when my period's going to come.
Yeah, I was going to say something as well, and I completely forgot because that story.
So this is like the story of our life. Jamal has like really interesting, like unique things he wants to say, and then I just like come out with the toilet humor.
No, you bring the humor and the spontaneity to my very intense expression of life.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we were talking about like how we got to this stage, like how practically we were gonna, like how we created our dreams, or like, and I think just to add, like we are literally very much at the start of our lives. We are living,
even though it feels like we've been at this for a long time.
Yeah, and we've been cultivating it internally, but practically, like if you look at our lives and you looked at like the practical things like money and like where you're living and like all these things, like most of our friends have mortgages and are in steady, like decent jobs, and they're like, you know, going on holiday once a year, living the very standard life, and we're very much like figuring it out. Yeah. I mean, I do have a 9 to 5, but it's like, it's not in the vision that I have for my life. It's not in the dream life. We're living kind of paycheck to paycheck. We're living in community, sharing with friends, which is amazing. I actually love that aspect. Yeah. But we're very much like still at the early stages of actually making this happen for our lives. Everything we're talking about is like very visionary. Yeah. And I'd love to keep documenting and talking about this as we go. Because imagine in 10 years' time, when we're 10 years deeper into this way of living, imagine like looking back on this conversation and being like, wow, we literally had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah, and I think that's the really exciting thing about YouTube is that like you guys get to come along with us on this journey of like figuring it out, and like we literally do not have it worked out at all. Like we're literally figuring it out day by day and like just praying, because who knows?
That's the thing. It's like as we be more authentic with it, things fall into our lives. It's like God drops these things into our lives as we respond to the call. And that's like, you know, to be in a position where we're living with friends who are also really, really creative and really rooting for us, you know, to be able to like...
Shout out Ryan and Louie, we love you.
We love you, Ryan and Louie. We love you. To be like, yeah, to have this conversation and to be able to talk openly about these things and to have spoken about this so much that we have found that compromise and found our wiggle room together. I mean, people may be listening who aren't in a couple or in a relationship and are looking for it themselves. And I think practically what I would say is simply like love yourself enough to give yourself the best possible chance of making it happen in your life. So whether it's carving out physical, practical time to like set aside time and go after this stuff, like look into it practically, like what would it look like to, I don't know, go and start building a career in the direction you want to go in. What would it look like to find the relationships you want to find, and also like how much, not even like money side, but currency, thinking about what is the value that you can give into the world and what is the value that you'd like to receive in your life. And so money is just one form of currency, but relationships is one, love is one, time, energy, you know, skill set, all of that can be exchanged in a way that you can give into the world. Through either volunteering or other ways, and then receiving that in kind of exchange. And so, yeah, I feel like giving is kind of at the heart of finding your dream life as well, because you can't exist in a vacuum. You know what I mean? You don't live in a vacuum.
Unless you're a piece of dust.
Or the spider that you might want to hoover up if you're scared of those. I saw this video on Instagram of someone hoovering up a spider in Australia, and they turned the hoover off and the spider was still crawling about in amongst all the dust, and it was like this massive like huntsman.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, wow.
That's your nightmare.
Yeah, nah, not for me. Not for me.
Okay, well, I think
I feel like we've gone through. I feel like this is just part one. We need to do maybe like in 6 months' time. We need to do like another part two.
Yeah.
Of like building vision, building our dream life, and just discussing dreams again, because it's been really fun. I really like talking about it.
I like you.
I kind of like you, you know. Like
you're nice.
Kind of all right. Yeah, it's nice hanging out with you and talking about dreams. But yeah, so thanks so much for listening. If you're listening on whatever streaming platform, thanks so much for watching if you're on YouTube. And drop a comment down below if you're on YouTube about like, just about your reflections on what we've talked about and what the vision is that you have for your life, or what things you've picked up on the podcast that have been inspiring, or similarly, like if you have anything to add for the people also in the comments, like let's start a conversation. For
sure. And I think also the first step in making your dreams happen is speaking about it, like speaking it out. So write in the comments what your dream for your life is, because I would really love to know. It'd be so interesting. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Subscribe to our channel to hear more podcasts, and we also vlog about our lives. So if you're interested in following along, subscribe and turn on those notification bells, because it's cool to get a notification. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. Wow. Just so that you're notified when we post. Okay.
This has been the Art of Us podcast. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.